Welcome to Everyday Cooking with your host, Kristie Greenwood on 1360 KUIK.
Welcome, everybody, to your Saturday edition here of Everyday Cooking. I'm Kristie Greenwood, coming to you every Saturday morning here on AM1360 KUIK. I'm excited to get to my next guest, though. Really cool videos on YouTube and also a good website. So I wanted to get him on to talk all about Italian cooking, and so that you guys can definitely check out his videos. So I'm excited to have on Scott Mash. How are you doing this morning, Scott?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So you, first of all, your website's fantastic. You know, definitely goes into some good stuff. Your YouTube videos are, really fun to watch. It's, you can go in and kind of, get some good, tips on how to cook and everything. But I love your description on your website on who you are. It says, your family would describe you as a wannabe comedian, great cook, super geek, and possibly a grouchy technician.
About right. That is about right. I always tell folks, I'm right up front with them. I don't have a culinary background. I'm an IT geek. I just like to cook and just like to, share what I'm learning and as I'm learning with folks on YouTube.
I love it. Yeah. And then also you said after you kind of got married and you had kids, those boxed, goods and frozen dinners and fast food became regular meals, and homemade meals were only, served on like special occasions like Thanksgiving and Easter. I think that's, like half of America right now. We kind of get into these ruts. So did making the website, kind of get you to get out of that rut, or how did it all begin?
Well, when our kids were growing up, we got 3 kids. They were involved in sports, and I always tell folks I was a functional cook. You're rushing around just trying to get things done. You make chicken nuggets or just whatever. And finally, my kids got older. I've got 2 in college and one that's just moved out, and I had time to finally slow down and just start really cooking for fun and, just taking time. So it's really, for me, it's more like therapy.
That's totally how cooking is for me. I think that we're definitely on the same page as that. Like, I am somebody who, if I actually take the time on Sundays to do a meal prep, I feel so much better about my week.
Yeah.
It's just it is so therapeutic for me. It makes me feel accomplished, makes me feel like I did something, and it's just absolutely just, makes me feel so much better. I think that is for most people too. If we actually took the time out to really enjoy cooking, then it makes a big difference. So why Italian food?
Well, it's really funny because growing up, and actually after I met my wife, I didn't like Italian food, but we lived in a rural part of Ohio, and you couldn't really get good Italian food. And so we would go to Olive Garden, which isn't real Italian, it's reheated Italian. And I just didn't like it. And the funny thing is, my wife's half Italian. I don't have a drop of Italian blood in me, but she's half Italian. Mm-hmm. And we moved to Columbus and found a couple good restaurants. And Columbus, Ohio is an absolute amazing foodie town. There are so many restaurants, new restaurants all the time.
Oh, I didn't know that. Portland is like the biggest foodie town. So that's awesome to hear that Columbus is also.
Yeah, and so when we got up here, I really fell in love with Italian food. You've got a great selection of markets, Whole Foods, and it's just amazing. And so, I started watching the food channel, started trying to cook, watching everything I could. And it's really tough because, I've never had a cooking class or anything, but to learn the different techniques. And then I that's kind of what started me doing the videos is I thought, if there's got to be other people out there struggling like I am to learn these techniques and whatnot. And so I thought, I'll just try to make some videos and see what happens. And then, the more I did, the more I kind of got into it. Now I try to put one out every week. And, it's just been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. And I feel like I've learned a lot.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is the toughest part about cooking Italian food?
Not weighing 300 pounds. That's about the toughest part because it's all so good. It's all just big, bold flavors. The toughest part is, like I said, it's just by the time I get dinner done, I'm not hungry because I keep tasting it and I keep taking little bites. But it's just fun. It's just fun for me.
That's totally my entire problem with life. Scott, is not weighing 300 pounds. That is my daily struggle because I go, God, I really want to eat that. So yes, definitely. So you said your wife grew up, kind of eating Italian food. How much has she, liked your new adventure?
She loves it. She absolutely loves it, especially since now, since I'm eating Italian, cooking Italian, we've got our, 2 or 3 favorite restaurants here in town. But she really loves it because I keep trying different recipes, and I'll talk to her mom, and her mom will share, something that her grandmother used to cook, and then I'll go home and try to figure out how to make it. And so she really enjoys it because, sometimes it's kind of like taking her down, the memory lane a little bit.
Very cool.
There's been a few dishes that I've made that, when I was making them, she didn't mention anything about it until we were sitting down and eating. She was like, you know what? I remember having this. She goes, I didn't really remember it until I started to eat it, and now I remember my mom making this.
So what are some of those dishes?
Oh gosh, Italian rice pie. Some of the different sauces that I make. But I think that particular one was an Italian rice pie.
Italian rice pie. What is an Italian rice pie? I don't even think I've ever even heard of that.
Well, with Italian rice pie, it's Italian. You take a standard rice, and rather than make it in water, you make it in milk and heavy cream, and then you add lemon, ricotta, a little bit of flour, kind of more as a thickening agent, and you bake it in a standard crust. But you got to bake it for about 45, 50 minutes, about 350. To get some of the moisture out of it. And it's a really dense pie, a little bit sweet, but it doesn't sound like it would come together, but boy, with the ricotta gives it enough sweetness and the lemon evens it out.
That sounds absolutely amazing to me. I don't know why you would think that doesn't sound good, but
and that's one I've made a couple of times, but I've not recorded yet. So that one will probably end up in a future episode of my video series.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna have to do that. That sounds really good. But I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with like cheese, rice, lemon. I mean, those are you can't go wrong with those things.
No, absolutely not. You can't.
Yeah. All right. So Scott, we're gonna take a quick break here. We're gonna come right back because I did want to talk about your videos and how you kind of got them going, and also some of your favorite recipes. So come right back, everybody. You're listening to Everyday Cooking. I'm Kristie Greenwood. This is AM 1360 KUIK. Welcome back once again, everybody, to Everyday Cooking. I'm Kristie Greenwood, coming to you every Saturday morning here at 10 a.m. And also, do not forget to catch me on that Jane Carroll show at 5:30 p.m., where Jane and I talk good food and even better recipes. We've had some great Thanksgiving recipes coming up since Thanksgiving is just around the corner. So if you want to catch any of those recipes, just go to KUIK.com, click on that left-hand side there under programming, and scroll down to Everyday Cooking with Kristie and Carol, and they are all there. Right now, though, I did want to get back to my guest, and that is Scott Mash of POV Italian, which means cooking from my point of view. And he also has a YouTube channel that kind of goes through and shows you how to make all these really, really amazing Italian recipes. So welcome back, Scott. Why don't you tell us what are some of the hardest recipes that you've made, or the most challenging on camera?
The most challenging on camera, oh my gosh. I would say that those are anytime that I have to deal with onions because my eyes are very sensitive. I do a lot of edits through there, so I'm not crying or sniffling through while talking through the videos.
So you're not tearing up the whole time?
Yeah, absolutely. So
that is super.
I haven't done any videos with bread, like making any kind of Italian bread, because I can't do it. It's that's the one thing I'm challenged to do. Every time I try to make a good bread, it doesn't rise, or it just doesn't turn out. So one of these days I'll figure it out and it'll show up in a video as well. I've recorded a couple, but I just haven't been able to edit them down and get them posted because there's just too much chaos in them.
Yeah, Scott, you and I are more alike than I thought, because I'm not a baker either. That is just not my forte. It's just
and that's why I like cooking, especially in Italian, because you don't have to measure. Baking, to me, it's too precise. Mm-hmm. I just kind of like to throw stuff in until it feels right and it tastes right. And so, and that tends to be how most folks that I've, talked to tend to cook Italian food.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So when it comes to Italian food versus, some other type of cuisine, what are some of the techniques that we're going to use when we're cooking Italian food?
Well, generally, with the techniques that I try to show is, you do a lot of red pastas or, red sauces, and use a lot of canned tomatoes. It's really important that if you're using canned or jarred tomatoes, that you let it cook. You've got to let those sauces simmer for 30 or more minutes. If not, they've got a little tin kind of taste to them, and you got to cook that out of them. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the biggest thing to remember, I think, for, folks that are doing kind of simple Italian or cooking at home.
Mm-hmm. And what are the kind of quintessential Italian spices?
Oh, basil, rosemary, sage. That's the holy trinity of spices for Italian cooking. And oregano. Mm-hmm. So, it tends to be those four. I use probably more basil than anything else, just because I like the flavor of it. The other ones, they kind of they'll round out the flavors in a dish, but for me, it's basil.
Mm-hmm. Oh, basil. And I find I add basil to a lot of non-Italian things, and it adds such a good flavor. Like, basil to me is the most versatile spice. It's just, you can put it in anything.
Yep.
Yes, so absolutely good. I'm surprised garlic. You didn't have garlic as one of the top there?
Well, garlic's it's one of those, it goes in everything Italian. So it's not Italian without garlic, so it's not the seasoning, it's the base.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so have you made fresh pasta?
I have made a lot of fresh pasta. It takes time, but you can't beat the taste. You can't beat the chew on a good, homemade pasta.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the things people need to remember when they're making their own homemade pasta?
Let it rest. Once you get it together, 1 egg to 3/4 cup of flour. Mm-hmm. So simple. I mean, there's no ingredient as simple that gives you such a good chew, such a good texture, such good flavor. But once you get it mixed together, wrap it in plastic, put it in your fridge, let it rest. You got to let those glutens calm down, and then it's going to turn out perfect.
Mm-hmm. Super, super good tip there, Scott. Definitely let that rest. And I think another good tip, don't be afraid to do it. Because as you said, super simple ingredients, and the taste is absolutely amazing.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Olive Garden's pasta, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's not. It's so much better. You get a good boiling water, high salinity. One of my favorite chefs, Mario Batali, always says you want your pasta water to the salinity of the ocean, and you only have to let that cook like 2 minutes, and it's done. Mm-hmm. Nothing better in the world. No,
there is nothing better. Okay, what about lasagna? Have you made a good lasagna? What are your tips on lasagna?
Oh, lasagna, lasagna is one of those things that I only do at special occasions, because the lasagna I like to make is a lasagna alla bolognese. And when I make my bolognese sauce, I use fresh ground pork, ground lamb, and ground veal. So it's a really rich bolognese sauce. I don't like to use ricotta, so I make my own bechamel as well. I've made some, some vegetarian lasagna, but you can't go wrong with lasagna alla bolognese.
That sounds really, really good. Okay, you did just mention a couple of different sauces there. What are your tips on sauces? Because sauces sometimes are where people get a little bit scared when it comes to cooking, Italian food, like the bechamel sauce or, things like that. What are some of your best tips, when you're making your own sauce at home?
Well, start with the Holy Trinity. That would be a red onion, celery, and carrots, a little bit of garlic. Use a good quality San Marzano tomato, canned tomato, and then let it cook. Let it simmer. You can't be in a hurry to make a sauce. Let it simmer. Salt, pepper, about a half an hour. I like to let my sauce cook at least a half an hour, if not 45 minutes. Usually when there's about 20 minutes left, then I'll hit it with the basil, maybe a little bit of oregano. But sauce is simple. I used to, back in the day when my kids were growing up, it was always ragu. Once I made my first sauce, I made the decision I'll never have another can of sauce in my house because it's so easy. So just don't be scared. Sauces can be so simple. I make a real simple red sauce that's just a little bit of diced onion, basil, and then again San Marzano tomatoes. You can't beat the flavor of a quick homemade sauce.
Oh yeah, I'm totally. Scott, like, you just keep saying everything that I've said on the show 100 times because
that's the thing about Italian cooking. And if you really get into the sub-regions, I like the Tuscan style. Because it's simple. It's 2 or 3 ingredients, maybe 5, 6, but you just throw it all together, let it cook, keep tasting it, keep adjusting your seasonings, and just let it simmer. It's so simple. I don't want to say there's not technique in it, but it's about the flavor.
Yeah.
The flavor.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what if people if people want to go and watch your videos, what are they going to get from them, Scott?
Well, what I hope they get is a simple demonstration of a certain Italian, whatever that is. I try to do some main courses. I try to do some sides. I even do some Italian breakfast. I love making frittata. But I hope they get a demonstration in a simple enough technique that anyone can do it. Because I honestly believe if I can do it, anybody can.
For sure. So really, really fun. Why don't you tell us quick the name of your YouTube videos and then also the website so that everybody can go and find these. It's super, super good tips, everybody, and really funny videos to watch. So tell us quick where we can find them, Scott.
My website is POV Italian Cooking.com. If you go to YouTube and search for POV Italian Cooking, you'll find our site. Right now we've got 47 episodes posted. I've got another 5 in the bank, and I will be posting them every week.
Yes, a 47. That's awesome. Do you know who likes to watch them, Scott? Is my 10-year-old son, actually. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so he finds them very interesting. So, and he always learns something, and he always comes back and is like, "Mom, did you know?" I'm like, "Thanks, dude."
And that's something else I try to do in the videos. If there's an ingredient that's not real common, I try to give a little bit of the backstory. Or if the main dish has a pretty good backstory or has some legend to it, I try to share that as well, just to kind of break up the monotony of prepping everything and preparing everything. And you can only watch somebody stir a dish for so long before you go stir crazy.
Exactly. Pun intended there. Stir crazy for sure. Thank you, Scott, once again for being on today. You guys, it is POV Italian. Really, really good videos. Like I said, my 10-year-old likes watching them. He thinks that they're super funny, and it's helping him kind of learn how to cook. So definitely a good thing. You can kind of have the video on while you're in the kitchen. It's, they're super simple, they're quick, and they are lots of fun. So thank you, Scott, once again for being on today.
Hey, thank you a lot. I really appreciate it.
Yes. All right, everybody. This has been a great show of Everyday Cooking. I want to thank all my guests. I want to thank Annie of Q, and also thank Dylan of Pok Pok Som, the drinking vinegars, and then also Scott of POV Italian. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been Everyday Cooking. I'm Kristie Greenwood. This is AM 1360 KUIK.